Hey, Carson, thanks for meeting with us today.
You're
So,
welcome.
give us a little insight on what we should do if suspicious activity or somebody happens here.
Yeah, Dan, you first want to say that as believers, we're not called to live in fear of the evil one. That comes from Satan,
That's right.
and but we are called to be prepared. And I would give, as the safety and service ministry, would give really highlight 3 points. One, if you see something, say something. Number two, if you're called, then de-escalate with care an agitated or disruptive person. And if you find yourself in a violent situation, then run, hide, fight. We all get gut feelings when we see something suspicious, right? And most of us have lived on this earth long enough to identify evil, and we get a gut feeling about it. We'd ask to reject passivity.
Yeah.
The evil one wants us to be passive,
That's right.
right? And to discount that to coincidence. But you see it in the airports, you see it in public places. If you see something, say something. Trust your gut. Reject passivity. Call 911 if you deem it to be an emergency. At the very least, we ask you to alert a church staff member or a safety and service ministry team member that wear the white shirts on Sundays.
Awesome. So, should I do something if I see something?
As believers, sometimes we get those nudges from the Holy Spirit,
Yeah.
right? That we're called to intervene if someone was deemed suspicious. And by all means, if you feel led, by simply asking somebody if you could help them, that could probably give you a lot of information about the state of mind of somebody, and you may be able to help them.
Now, it's most likely we could have an agitated person here sometime, especially when Pastor Bob is preaching. So, what would you ask us to do if we have some kind of situation?
So we're saying de-escalate with care, and you may run into somebody who's an agitated, disruptive, and most folks in that situation just really want to be heard. And I've heard you and Bob say that, and I've learned that myself. And so by the way we present our body language, by our tone of voice, by the questions we ask, by simply listening to someone who's disruptive, agitated, angry in church, we can be pretty effective at de-escalating that. So if you feel led, then by all means do it in that way. If you don't, then we go back to the first one. See something, say something, find somebody that you think might be equipped to handle that situation.
So, see something, say something, de-escalate, and what's the third one? Can you tell us more about that?
So this is in the event that we encounter a violent situation. Okay, so we hear about that in the news a lot, unfortunately these days. And the one we kind of go to a lot is an active shooter event.
Okay.
What is being taught in schools and workplaces and other places of community, public places, is the run, hide, fight protocol. So it's in 3 distinct steps. So if you were to find yourself in a violent situation like that, attempt to run. And what that means is find an exit of the building, help people to find, to bring along with you. If you have to break a window to get out of a room, then do it. Get out of the situation without encountering, let's say, a shooter. The second thing to consider is to hide. If you find yourself in a room, close the door, lock the door if you can, shut down the lights, turn off your cell phone. You're trying to escape from the shooter or hide from the shooter, and barricade the door if you can, and then prepare for the third step, and that's to fight.
So let's talk a little bit more about what we should do in a crowded situation where somebody is appearing violent. What would you suggest?
Right. So a place like the sanctuary, Dan, if somebody were to engage in violence in the sanctuary, remember the fight part of the protocol.
Yeah.
Right. And we would recommend taking a Bible, hitting them with
Throw
the
the Word
Bible.
of God.
Right. And if you have 100 people doing that and throwing purses or whatever you could throw to use as weapons, somebody tackling him, getting them low, getting them high, that's really, I would say, the preferred method to deal with somebody who's in a crowd. And one thing I wanted to address is, I'm aware of several members who choose to carry, and I would just throw out that in that particular scenario that you just pointed out,
Yeah.
that's not a great place to use a firearm.
Okay.
And you got to remember, large crowd, chaos now ensuing. Everybody's stress level is high.
Yeah.
We strongly recommend not to do that.
Okay. So what's the role of the safety and service team in all this? Can you just share a little bit about how they'll respond?
Sure, and I want to be very clear. The safety and service team are not police officers, okay? We have a great police force. They're called the Plymouth Police Department.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember they're only 5 minutes away. And we're blessed to be located right down the road from their department. So our role is first and foremost to provide leadership in the event of an emergency situation, not just emergency situations, but that's what we're talking about today. And for those first few minutes until the police arrive. We're also charged with providing information to church guests, providing direction to them, providing information to the church staff, calling 911, getting authorities on their way, those kinds of things.
Well, we sure appreciate you coming here and sharing.
You're welcome.
And it's great having you in this room with me. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.